On this edition for Sunday, April 22nd. On Earth Day, the focus turns to plastic pollution as EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt faces new scrutiny. And in our signature segment, a growing number of African Americans turn to homeschooling. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
From the Tisch WNET studios at Lincoln Center in New York, Hari Sreenivasan.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. A manhunt is underway in Tennessee tonight after a mass shooting at a Waffle House restaurant just outside Nashville before dawn. Police say 29-year-old Travis Reinking may be armed and urged residents to stay indoors.
He clearly came armed with a lot of firepower, intending to devastate the South Nashville area.
Reinking is suspected of killing 4 people and wounding at least 7 others at this Waffle House restaurant in Antioch, Tennessee, less than 10 miles southeast of Nashville. Reinking was only partially clothed when he opened fire outside the restaurant, then entered and continued firing, according to witnesses. James Shaw Jr., a customer inside at the time, told reporters he rushed the gunman when the shooting stopped, wrestling away the AR-15 rifle. This afternoon, the U.S. Secret Service said they arrested Reinking last July for being inside a restricted area near the White House. The FBI then requested his firearms authorization be revoked. Reinking's from Illinois. Local police there seized 4 weapons last year, including the AR-15 that allegedly was used in today's shooting. The Tennessean newspaper reports that police believe Reinking's father received the guns after they were confiscated and then gave the weapons back to his son. North and South Korea's current leaders are on the verge of their first ever face-to-face meeting, expected to occur in the demilitarized zone on Friday. And on Twitter, President Donald Trump, who is expected to have his own summit with North Korea next month, continued to respond to the announcement from Pyongyang that it would close a nuclear research site and stop launching long-range missiles. In a tweet this morning, Mr. Trump incorrectly stated that North Korea has agreed to denuclearization. The president followed up with a cautious tone. We are a long way from conclusion on North Korea. Maybe things will work out, and maybe they won't. Only time will tell. In Washington, Republicans and Democrats were also cautious about North Korea's willingness to disarm. Senate Foreign Relations Chair Republican Bob Corker speculated that North Korean leader Kim Jong-un might be thinking about what happened to Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, who gave up his nuclear program in 2003.
He saw what happened with Gaddafi. Gaddafi's a dead man now because he gave up his nuclear weapons. And so to think that somebody's going to go in and charm him out of that is not realistic. Is there some progress that can be made? I hope so. But, that's a big hurdle.
Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein was also hopeful about the talks, but not confident North Korea would keep any promises if a nuclear deal is made.
The question is whether it lasts or not. And of course, the reputation of the North Koreans has been that they don't necessarily keep their agreements.
Today is Earth Day, an event that began in 1970 and is often considered the beginning of the modern environmental movement. This year, the issue at the top of the agenda is plastic. From grocery bags to plastic straws to tiny microbeads and everything from soap to makeup, the Earth is swamped in plastic and will remain so for generations to come. So what can be done? Joining me now is Jenna Jambeck, Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at the University of Georgia, who is marking this Earth Day conference and joins us from Tel Aviv. Thanks for being with us. So let's kind of put this in perspective. What's the scale of our plastic problem or situation?
In 2015, we were able to estimate the input of plastic from our mismanaged waste around the world into the oceans, and that is equal to about 8 million metric tons of plastic entering the oceans every year. So if you think about it, that's equal to about a dump truck of plastic every minute going into the ocean. It's very significant.
And is there anything that we know about plastic that gives us any kind of hope? I mean, how long does it take for plastic to dissolve or degrade as it sits in our oceans?
It really doesn't ever biodegrade that we're aware of, and what it does instead is fragment over time into smaller and smaller pieces. So a large plastic item then ends up as many small microplastic items. And
these microplastics, I'm assuming they end up inside aquatic life because they think it's food?
Certainly, some of this looks very much like food that animals in the marine ecosystem eat. And then we know that even some of the smallest items, like some of the microbeads, can be consumed by some of the smallest animals in our food web, like zooplankton.
When you think about a dump truck of plastic every minute, what is the impact that you and I can have, or any human being can have, on that kind of quantity? What are steps that we can actually take that reduces that?
Reusable water bottle, reusable coffee mug, don't use a straw, a reusable bag. I know we've heard them before, but our research really shows that taken collectively, or you just making this choice over a period of time, those choices really have an impact.
And is there agreement around the planet? I mean, you see local communities decide to, say, ban plastic shopping bags or charge higher for them. Has the world started to figure that out, especially in developing countries?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all at different stages around the world, and many of these solutions are very locally based. But at the same time, yes, I think we can all around the world agree that we don't want plastic in our environment, in our oceans. The UN has a campaign, and folks around the world can sort of state their commitments that they're having to help with this issue. And so they might be different, but everyone can commit to doing something.
Are there any technologies on the horizon that might be good substitutes for plastics that might be less harmful to the planet in the long term?
We're looking at polymers at the University of Georgia and the New Materials Institute that will biodegrade, actually biodegrade, but also serve some of the needs of plastic. So you can think of something more like a paper. Of course, these things still need to be managed within our waste stream, but I do think that thinking about new materials and product design is a very important step that's way upstream of thinking about solving this problem.
All right, Jenna Jambeck, Associate Professor of Environmental Engineering at the University of Georgia, joining us on Earth Day. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
On this Earth Day, the Environmental Protection Agency is also in the news, not for the successes and failures of its core mission, but for the actions of its leader, Scott Pruitt. Scott Pruitt had an apartment in D.C. for an incredibly low $50 a day. That apartment was owned by a lobbyist's wife. Now, there are records showing that the lobbyist, J. Stephen Hart, met with Pruitt last year. Both the EPA and Hart's firm previously denied any meetings during the time Pruitt rented the condo in 2017 or any time after. The firm now says the meeting was personal. Besides that possible conflict of interest, Pruitt's critics point to excessive spending on travel, furniture, security, and pay raises for aides, some now rescinded. The EPA chief, who was previously the elected Oklahoma Attorney General, came to Washington promising to roll back regulations, cut the agency's staff, and repeal Obama administration environmental policies. The New York Times reports this weekend that some of the behaviors Pruitt is in the spotlight for now were also happening during his time in public office in Oklahoma. Joining me now is New York Times investigative reporter Steve Eder. And you also reported with Hiroku Tabuchi on this story. First of all, tell us what you found.
You know, we set out to try to get a better understanding of Scott Pruitt in Oklahoma and understand kind of what we're seeing now versus his years there. And our reporting ended up centering around, his ability to kind of blend to some extent his relationships that he had on the business side with political relationships, and brought it to a house during his years in the state Senate that he had purchased with a group of other investors through a shell company that was near the State House in Oklahoma City and in the state capitol. And we started looking at that. It turned out that it was a purchase that involved SBC, now AT&T, the telecom company. And just sort of raising the questions about kind of the blurring of the lines, that's gone on with Scott Pruitt over the years as it relates to ethical questions and business and politics.
And what about the transaction? Did he get a better deal on it? I mean, now we're talking about this $50 a day kind of situation in D.C. What was the situation in Oklahoma?
The lobbyist who had owned the home had bought it a year earlier. When Pruitt's group came in, they were able to buy it at a $100,000 discount. From the purchase price a year earlier. It's a complicated sale. Yeah. AT&T's perspective on it, though, was that they had it appraised for a price that was similar to what Pruitt and his group paid at that time. But then again, a year later, Pruitt and his group sold the home. It actually, about 2 years later, sold the home for back up to the original price. So around that $475,000. So the numbers in there did raise some questions.
People are going to watch this and say, okay, why does it matter about a house that he had some stake in years and years ago? What is the pattern that you're trying to establish? And are the same people involved in any of the stuff that he's working on today?
Well, two parts of that are important to think about. One is that it's important to understand whether the issues that have arisen in 2017, 2018 stand alone, or whether they trend back. back to the time in Oklahoma, and that's definitely part of what we set out to try to understand. You know, the person whose name was registered on this LLC that bought the home, you know, is an individual who's a senior aide working closely with Pruitt now at the EPA. There's several different business dealings over the years where they were involved. And then the bank that ended up providing the mortgage on the property was headed by yet another, you know, a person who now works at the EPA with Scott Pruitt as well.
So these were colleagues or business associates of him in Oklahoma at the time that facilitated this transaction, and now they are part of the EPA today.
Right. So there was a lot of connective tissue between these folks over the years.
Scott Pruitt has come in to say, I'm the kind of deregulator-in-chief almost of the EPA, that these are my goals. Has he been effective? Because on the one hand, the environmental community says, this is, you know, disastrous. He's going to roll back clean water and clean power, clean air standards, et cetera. What's actually passed and what's happened? Yeah, I think that what's going on, it's kind of interesting when you look at the agenda, that they've been effective to some extent in coming out with a high deregulatory agenda, a lot of specifics that have gone on over the past year and a half, or not quite a year and a half yet. But at the same time, these types of headlines on the ethics front and the questions that have arisen, suddenly you're also dealing with a myriad of other issues that could distract from that. Well, what's the response been from Scott Pruitt or the office?
They said that this particular transaction that we were discussing was arm's length, was just a simple real estate deal, and nothing more to it, and that they hold themselves to a high standard.
All right, Steve Eater, The New York Times. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
One of the most important choices a parent or guardian makes is where to send a child to school. And an increasing number are deciding not to send them at all, instead educating them at home. One segment of this growing movement, African Americans, are looking to provide their children the history and social context they say can't be found in public schools. Yvette Feliciano reports from Atlanta, Georgia.
At the Atlanta home of 19th century writer Joel Chandler Harris, best known for his Uncle Remus African-American folk tales, Akbar Imhotep is keeping alive the oral tradition that inspired Chandler's books.
Listen to the words and help them grow.
This is part of a homeschooling support network in Cobb County, Georgia, just outside Atlanta.
This is not just any old house.
It was founded in 2016 by Amber Johnston, a business owner, wife, and mother of 4. She wanted to fill a need she saw for her daughters and for a burgeoning demographic in the homeschooling movement, African Americans. Johnston's group, which began with 2 families less than 2 years ago, has grown to 66 families.
I'm still shocked about it. It reminds me when I was growing up in the 80s, there was this cartoon called Thundercats. And when they needed to be called to action, they would say, Thundercats, 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 ho! And this light would go up in the sky and the other Thundercats would see it. That's what I feel like. I feel like I put a beacon light up in the sky in Cobb County, thinking that a few sprinkles of families might see it. And I've been overwhelmed by the response.
Across the nation, as many as 202,000 Black children are being homeschooled, up from about 105,000 in 2003. While white Americans still make up a majority of the 1.7 million homeschoolers, the percentage of African Americans is growing fast. They cite some of the same reasons for abandoning traditional schools that the larger homeschooling community does: negative school environments, including peer pressure, dissatisfaction with academics, and a desire to provide religious instruction.
Our Father who art in heaven.
But it wasn't just the family's faith that made the Johnstons look for alternatives. They were worried about the quality of the schools in their area. And there was another factor that gave them pause.
I started realizing that maybe we hadn't come as far along in race relations in the country as I thought that we had, that there seemed to be a lot of messed up stuff brewing underneath. And I was feeling very much like a mama bear, like, hey, I don't know exactly what's going down here, but I'm not willing to sacrifice my child as I try to figure this out.
That was 4 years ago, and Johnston's daughters have been homeschooled ever since.
What does that mean?
If you don't work for your food, you can't get it.
The decision to home educate was strengthened in 2014 when Johnston found out she was having the first of her 2 boys. She was initially excited.
And my very second thought was, great, now I'm the mother of America's most hated. And what am I going to do with that? When I look at my little boys, I just see beauty. And the thought of putting them in an environment where one day they would be looked upon potentially and very likely as being less than, less smart, less deserving, less safe. And I just hear less.
Johnston isn't alone. Cheryl Field Smith, a professor of education at the University of Georgia, has heard from a lot of parents like Amber Johnston. In 2009, she published a study about Black homeschoolers. She found the vast majority cite perceptions of or experiences with racism in public and private schools as a reason for homeschooling.
The research shows us that we have discipline disproportionality where Black males are suspended 2 times more than their other counterparts. So that's not by accident. I think that's racism. I think that that's prejudice and assumptions that we're making about children.
Judy Sardin, who lives just outside of Atlanta, knows these kinds of assumptions all too well. Sardin and her husband, an architect, both went to public schools. She was an attorney making 6 figures when she decided to quit her job to teach her 2 kids, 10-year-old Aiden and 9-year-old Haley.
Kind of hard to imagine that person quitting their fancy corporate job and going home to be with their children.
It was 2012. Sardin says then 4-year-old Aiden had a tough year with one teacher in his Montessori class.
My son was reading at the time. He was young, but he was reading. And the other teachers had pushed him. Anything he showed an aptitude for, they had pushed him and helped him to develop it in a way that he enjoyed it. But this teacher, who had come from the public schools, didn't. And I begged her to, I sent her books to school that he was reading and asked her to encourage him and have him read to her, and she never did. There was no expectation that he should be able to read. And I could see kind of, the writing on the wall. I could see where we were going with his education, with him regressing the way he did that one year. It was drastic, and it was heartbreaking.
Keeping her kids home, Sardin says she is able to shape their curriculum. That includes history lessons they won't get in public school.
Depending on what state you're in, you learn about African enslavement in the Americas, or you don't learn about it at all. And basically, that is the history that all kids, Black and white, learn about Black people.
With her kids, she teaches a different way.
So we don't just learn about the Greek and Roman empires. We learn about the African civilizations. We learn about what's going on in the Americas. We get to learn about what's going on pretty much on every continent throughout history. So that by the time we get to modern times and we get to African enslavement in the Americas, we've studied 4,000 or 5,000 years of world history, but especially African history. So that for my children, their history didn't just start 300 years ago here in the Americas. Their history started back in Africa.
We go hard on African American history and culture, and again, that's a reflection of just what I didn't know. I didn't know much about Africa. I thought Africa was a country,
Retired Air Force veteran Shiva Quinn lives in rural Byron, Georgia. She has been homeschooling her 2 daughters, 7-year-old Zariah and 6-year-old Anaya, for the past 4 years.
So 6 times 5 is what?
30.
Okay.
Like Judy Sardin, Quinn emphasizes African American history and has added a personal touch, tracing her family's DNA to Ghana. And she's doing it on her own as a single mother.
Being a single parent is not easy on nobody. I'm not gonna lie. My day starts at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, getting breakfast going, getting lunch on, because you can't afford to eat out every day. Like, who does that, right? So you have to be more engaged with your family.
Homeschooling can be costly. Like private school families, homeschoolers still must pay the local taxes that pay for public school even though their kids are not enrolled. The cost of educational content can run into the hundreds, and funds for teaching tools like tablets and these programmable robots come directly out of parents' pockets. But with access to low-cost or free online lessons, Quinn says being a homeschooling single mom is possible. A combination of her Air Force pension, a job teaching a few online classes, and financial contributions from her ex-husband allows Quinn to stay at home. She decided to homeschool when teachers refused her request to give her then 4-year-old daughter advanced reading material. The decision was very much grounded in her family history.
I come from a family of illiteracy, and I wanted my kids to really know how to read well. And that was the whole, thing of it behind me when I say the schools wouldn't, push them. I'm like, I know they can do more. I know they can do better, but we're just going to do this and we're not going to do any more. And I'm like, no, why she can't practice her sight words over the weekend, or why we can't read these books, or, why we had to just stop at this level. And when I found out that the teachers just were not working with me and trying to help me move my children forward, I was like, this is not going to work.
Professor Field Smith points to studies suggesting Shiva Quinn's experience is not unique. African American parents can face more resistance from schools than white parents when advocating for their children.
A lot of homeschoolers have had experiences in schools where the parents have tried to advocate for their children and they've experienced marginalization, and their child has experienced just not being able to be themselves. They're painted as troublemakers.
And being able to be yourself and embrace Black culture, says Amber Johnston, is part of what her homeschooling group is all about.
Sometimes, doggone it, we just want to go to Alvin Ailey and put on some Nina Simone and come home and just talk about stuff. And that's what we're able to do. So it's not against anyone as much as it is a support. And I really see it as a mental health system for our kids.
But not everyone sees it that way, she says. On social media, she's received some painful comments, particularly from those outside her Black community.
You're basically teaching racism to your kids, or your group is an example of reverse racism. And so I wish, that I could sometimes say, I wish you could walk in my shoes, because I know you're a passionate mother. And I know that if your little girl was heartbroken, you would start any kind of group you could to help her.
Watch the NewsHour's Jeffrey Brown interview authors at the LA Times Festival of Books. Visit pbs.org/newshour. At least 57 people, including 5 children, are dead, and more than 100 other people are injured today after a suicide bombing in the Afghan capital of Kabul. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack at a voter registration center, where Afghans were registering for the country's October parliamentary elections. The bombing is one of several recent attacks on voter registration centers in Afghanistan. In Syria, the government launched new military attacks today, stepping up efforts to drive out the last remaining militant groups near the capital city of Damascus. State-run television showed government forces attacking districts of the city still held by the Islamic State using warplanes, helicopters, and artillery. On Friday, the militants had agreed to abandon the areas, but reportedly did not surrender to government troops or agree to relocate to other rebel-held areas of the country. Human rights monitors say at least 25 people have died in clashes between police and protesters in Nicaragua this week. Students, workers, and retirees took to the streets on Wednesday following the government's announcement of increased income and payroll taxes and reduced pensions in order to shore up the country's social security system. Yesterday, following 4 days of protests, Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega said he was ready to reconsider the unpopular reforms. His announcement came after video went viral of a journalist being shot and killed while covering the protests on Facebook Live. Tomorrow on the NewsHour, 5 years after a tragic fire at a Bangladeshi garment factory, what's changed for those who make the clothes? That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. I'm Sreenivasan. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.